from a statistical standpoint, Djokovic is the greatest player to ever win in our sport. But, how do you define greatness? It's confusing if you have the attention span of a fruit fly.
Tennis shouldn't grow. I don't think we need to grow the game.
Did we experience the most beautiful tennis player that will ever play the game in Roger Federer, and now the game is uglier and boring?
We are rolling. We are live on the Slice Tennis Podcast, presented by Betway, hosted by Stephen Boughton and J.P. Hovey. And as always, we are bringing the heat with another full episode of the Slice. And guys, I would never tell you to skip to certain parts of episodes, but there are certain times where you do. Like, even I'm excited because I didn't get to be a part of it. But earlier today, Stephen got to sit down with Conor Casey. You've probably seen him on Instagram. He does hilarious sketches. You got to go follow him. And Stephen and him, they do a little bit of a non-traditional interview where they give out all of their tennis hot takes, which I think is a nice breath of fresh air in the tennis world. I can't wait to listen to the hot takes. If you have a hot take, leave it in the comments right now, and maybe we can talk about it on the next episode. But before we get into that interview, we got to talk about Alcaraz and Sinner. We finally got to see him in a Masters 1000 final, so we'll recap some of that. Of course, we got our Eala hour. She's about to play in her first major since her breakthrough in Miami. And then we're going to talk about our weeks. There was a little birthday on the Boughton side where I saw a party going on. I didn't get invited, but we can get into all of that later on. And last but not least, we got our best bet of the day, which we will hopefully be trying to get you a little bit of summer fun, some summer spending money responsibly with Betway. But Stephen, before we get into the best bet, we got to hear about Nicole's birthday. It looked like a good time in the backyard.
Yeah, man, it was great. We had my wife Nicole's 30th birthday.
3-0.
It was 3-0. It was a big one. Big effort on the planning side of things. A lot of, sometimes when you host, we didn't know where we were going to host it. We were going to try and do it at this like cool wine bar downtown, but that didn't work out. But we ended up having it at our house. So then there's added stress, kind of having everyone over and planning. And then last minute, my one buddy flew in and stayed with us in our suite at the back. And then two other friends of mine were randomly in town as well. So we kind of there's like a zillion people in our compound, but we love that. We love our community and had them all over, and it was awesome. It was like the garden party. So yeah, there are allegations out there that J.P. Hovey was not invited. So maybe we should just address those now.
Yeah, what was the reasoning behind it? Was there something I had said that I didn't notice? I can't imagine it has anything to do with me living in Nashville and you in Vancouver. So what was it?
Well, it was actually, I think there's a bit of a misunderstanding here because we have told you there's always a standing invite at any time you and sit and show up at our door. You're more than welcome. So, I would have thought when you kind of just like looked at your calendar and you saw Nicole's birthday like clearly circled on it, and I thought there would have been travel plans arranged, but you guys didn't show up, so all's fair. But I gaslight you into feeling bad.
Right, but hey, all this just sets the standard for next year. For birthday 31, we got to do whatever we can to make it happen now. Or wait, you got?
Now I have a super serious idea because I do not want to host another party for a long time at our house because it was just a little stressful, especially with the baby. So 31, maybe we just come to Nashville and just do the Nashville 31st. Problem
solved. One question I do have for you is whose 30th birthday was better, yours or Nicole's?
She's gonna watch this because she's a loyal listener, but I would literally just have to stay true to what I think, which is my party was better.
I mean, from the outside looking in, I would rather been at her party.
Her party was also awesome. You asked which party was better, and I just think mine was a little bit more exotic, right? Costume, Mad Men style, in a penthouse. Literally felt like you're in a different time. And yeah, so there I would lean mine, but for Nicole's purposes, she probably thought hers was better because it was very cool aesthetic. We had caviar, we had all this stuff. One little tin only. Don't think we're going crazy. We found a deal for it. Have you ever had caviar or bought it, or do you know how expensive it is?
Never had caviar. I feel like my dad has talked about it. My dad's a really good cook, and I know he's had it before, but I don't think I've ever had it. And no, I don't know how much it costs either. What's the market?
It's like so a little 30-gram tin is essentially like $100.
Do you just eat it solo?
We put it on chips, but it's sturgeon fish eggs. That's what it is. So do you know what a sturgeon is?
Oh yeah.
Okay, fair enough. You know every animal. To be fair, your animal knowledge is way. What's that thing called up there, right here?
Capybara.
Menu. Yeah, you guys know the animals, but anyways, that's what those are. We had some caviar as part of the style. So yeah, I think my party was better, but hers was also amazing. And glad it's over. Let's just say that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It could be stressful.
It could be stressful, but we had a great time. How was your week, JP?
My week was good. This was one of my first weekends back in Nashville, and I'm trying to think. I had to go get a black suit because I'm going to Greece, not this Friday, but next for my college roommate's wedding.
Right.
First time to Europe. And crazy fun fact for you. She's been to Greece a couple times, to Paros, and I don't know when she was looking on Nicole's Instagram, but she saw the restaurant you guys went to in Greece.
Yes.
And she was like, one of the restaurants, obviously you went to a bunch, but she was like, wait, I've been to this place, and this was one of my favorite places. We have to go there. So we are going to the same restaurant, one of the same restaurants that you and Nicole ate at.
Do you remember what it was called?
I do not off the top of my head. I got to look back through the photos. I don't know. I guess y'all probably posted a few
yeah, no, there was one that I think we tagged. It was called Family Tavern. I don't know. It doesn't sound very Greek, but it was insane. It was like, it's one of those restaurants where you go on Google Maps and it had like a 4.9 rating with like 500 plus reviews, which is like almost unheard of.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe it's that one, but I thought it was pretty crazy. Just a small world.
Yeah. Super small world. I mean, yeah. Were you watching NHL hockey this week, or were you just, cheering for the Oilers from afar?
Cheering for the Oilers from afar. We got to see the Maple Leafs apparently do what the Maple Leafs do. We got some of our friends lost a lot of money, just hoping and praying that this is the year the tide would turn. It was not. But yeah, a lot. I mean, dude, the playoff season right now in sports is incredible. And then especially mix in the French Open with it. We're in a great time of the year.
Great time of the year. Great time of the year. Yeah, it doesn't really get better. Scotty Scheffler. I call him Scotty Scheffler, like my son.
Right.
He wins the PGA.
He could be a guy that, like, when we're talking about Felix and the attitude that he needs to get, it's almost like the Scotty Scheffler. I think it was Saturday where he drained a long putt on 18, and he just had that look in his eye of like, not one piece of him was happy. You looked at the camera and you looked at him and you were like, oh my gosh, he's taking it personal with every other person on this leaderboard, and he wants them to walk away Sunday afternoon thinking there is not a chance I could ever beat Scotty Scheffler. And I feel like Felix, like, he obviously played well, whether it was today or yesterday, but it's like that type of mentality that we've talked about before.
Yeah, it's that swagger. It's hard to get back once you lose it, but once you got it, Scheffler definitely has that. And he's, nicest guy ever out there. Christian, sweetest guy, but on the course, he's like got that dog in him for sure. And he's like, if I don't win by 6, I'm not happy. And he did win by 6.
Absolute killer. Made some money on that one, actually. I put a futures in on Scotty Scheffler beginning of the tournament because why not, right? It's like, don't fix what ain't broke. And something there's no reason for us to fix it because it is not broken. And that is our best bet of the day, presented by Betway. You hit it ace with Betway and get up to $200 if your first bet loses, plus 50 bonus spins no matter the result. Scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account and redeem your offer. Offer is only available for new customers. Terms and conditions always apply, and the offer is not available in Ontario, and you must be 19 and up. Please play responsibly. Steven, we got some action going on in a tournament you've actually been to.
Yeah, I love looking on the Betway app and seeing their odds that they have in different tournaments for different players, and because it helps tell the story, right? So Djokovic has obviously been searching for form, and he's in Geneva trying to get some of that form. He plays tomorrow Martin Fucsovics. And typically, Martin Fucsovics is a good player, but typically Djokovic would have pretty, like, I don't know, JP, if this looks interesting to you, but he goes, Djokovic is a favorite at minus 400, which is like fairly strong, but I've, a lot of times he's like minus 1,000. That's the favorite. And then Fucsovics is only plus 300 as the underdog. So it's not like they're not giving Fucsovics like crazy value to be the underdog. So it shows like they're not sure how well Djokovic is going to play because he hasn't been winning, back-to-back matches. He's barely been winning matches on the clay at all. So that's interesting. Another interesting one was in the French Open qualifying on the women's side. Our girl Victoria Mboko.
Yeah,
she is 19 years old, and she's playing. I'm gonna have to Kathinka von Dijkman, and Vicky, as they call her, our Canadian, is minus 1,000 to win that match.
Hey, we gotta know. Betway knows, but we do need to keep an eye on her because I feel like she's hopefully she gets to the main draw, and then I think there will be a lot of value on her in that first round.
Yeah, but she's I think the secret's out that she's a killer. And then she's leveling with the top WTA players. So I think she's ranked 120, and her opponent Von Dijkman is ranked like 180 or something like that. So they know that Vicky's going up. And another Canadian that did well today, our girl Bianca Andreescu, 16060. Boom. And she was playing qualifying as well of the French Open, beat Yao 6060. Double bagel. Love to see it.
Bianca, the bagel, Andreescu. Also, when I was looking through the qualifiers, I noticed that Mpeshi Perricard has a sister.
Oh, really?
And she is in the qualifiers, and I believe she won her first round. So
she is serve bot too.
Family. Maybe I don't know if she's serve bot or not, but maybe they both make a little splash at the French Open. We obviously haven't seen much from Giovanni this year, but he's on some home soil. Hopefully he can get it going, but crazy that he has a sister out there.
Very crazy. Here's an interesting one. Another best bet. This is best bets of the day today. So in Hamburg, where Felix Auger-Aliassime just won his first match on clay in a pretty dominant performance, he will now play Giovanni Mpeshi Perricard in the second round. So that's a big match. And they got Felix as a slight favorite at minus 167. Which I actually think there's a ton of value there. Let's be honest here. Okay, think about this for a second. Mpeshi Perricard hasn't won like a match since like February, I don't think.
Right.
Like he might have won one match since February. Felix just won a match, and he's a much better player all around, so he should win. But he's minus 167. That's, to me, that's like low. That's low. That's not enough value for my guy there. So I'm gonna put some money where my mouth is there, and there's a lot of this backstory to Felix's agent, who he left to go to a different agent, is the agent of Giovanni Mpeshi Perricard. So there's kind of a bit of French-Canadian drama between those two camps. I'm sure all very professional, but there is an aspect of that, and that's a little insider knowledge there.
Love that. Those are our best bets of the day presented by Betway. Make sure y'all sign up and take advantage of that offer. This is a great time to take advantage of it because so many lines out there, so much value in the French Open, especially coming up, so many matches, and you get up to $200 if your first bet loses. So take advantage of Betway. Somebody we're going to have our eye on going into the French Open, Alex Eala. This is officially the Eala hour starting now. We saw what happened in Italy, right? Singles didn't go so well. But, Steven, what was she able to do in the doubles? How far was she able to make it?
Well, if people missed it, she made the quarterfinals with her partner, none other than Coco Gauff. Yeah, you know that name. They got through 2 rounds there and lost in the quarterfinals. So that's more experience for Alex. That's more reps. And that's also, we talked about on the last show, being around, like, I would say, greatness at this point. Like Coco Gauff is actually like 3 years older than Alex Eala and has done obviously a lot more in the game, has done it all, won majors. So that's got to be good for her. And then, the French Open, as you alluded to earlier, is her first major since she broke out. So if you Filipino fans are watching, this is the big one, right? If you weren't watching before, you saw her Miami Open run, and you're following now, this is the first biggest, big major tournament since her run there. So she can string together a few wins here, which actually would, kind of, I don't think she's really strung like more than 2 wins together since Miami.
Right.
Hasn't been that long, obviously, but you get more points, more money for doing that at the French Open, and there'll be more crowds and more pressure. So we'll see what type of draw she gets, but you can theoretically, compared to a Masters, there's more players in a major, so you can theoretically get an easier first round or a lower ranked opponent, but not. You could also play the seeded player and have it tough. But that'll be a good big challenge for her. Alex Eala takes the Philippines takes over Paris.
Boom. That's going to be the title of our first episode during the French Open. I can feel it. She's going to have a great run. Also worth noting that in doubles, they did lose to the eventual champions in a tiebreak. So getting to play some quality matches, which has to be extremely important at this stage in your career, just being out there with top players.
Yeah. So so now I guess we'll just talk about the results from last week in Rome.
Yeah.
So I was just going to look up one thing. Jasmine Paolini, I believe, won doubles and singles.
Yeah.
Gangster,
man.
I don't know. Did you know that? I knew she won singles. I didn't know she won doubles.
Yeah. Only reason I know that actually is because when I was looking it up and I was seeing Alex Eala and Coco Gauff in doubles, I saw they lost to Paolini. And then I just clicked on her name and saw the whole thing. I was like, oh, snap. She had herself a little payday in the home country.
For real. And that's, she had the Italians going buck wild. She only dropped one set, and it was not to Coco Gauff in the final. It was to Schneider in the quarterfinals. So she beats Coco Gauff 6-4, 6-2 in the final. Jasmine Paolini, we saw her last year at the French Open, I believe, in the final. And she's just really gone from like a good, solid pro player to like an elite natural surfaces player. I think she was in the final of French Open and Wimbledon last year. Or the year before, but I think it was last year. So unbelievable for her to win in Rome in front of that crowd. And then Jannik Sinner almost completed the perfect comeback.
Dude, I mean, yeah, first off, shout out to him for making it to a final in a first tournament back after 3 months. As we've seen so many of these people, whether it's from injury, suspension, whatever it is, it's hard to stack wins when you first get back. And I think he got wins over 3 top 20 players, at least, maybe 2 over top 10. But I mean, overall, and I know he said he was pleased with it, but great tournament for him first coming back. And I got to believe, do you think the Italian Open, that Rome has to be the biggest home court advantage of any tournament of the Masters?
Yeah, like just because like the way that center court looks, I think how steep it is, I love it. Like you feel like you're playing a gladiator match, and honestly, Alcaraz gets a lot of love wherever he goes in the world, and he was like winning match points and like going to his box, and it was pretty quiet whenever he won a point. And then Sinner couldn't get it done even with the home support, and he did have 2 set points in that first set. He was up 15-40 on the Alcaraz serve, and maybe got a little tight, dumped the first return in the net, and then just unforced error on the second point. And Alcaraz, that's all he needed. He got through. But I did think it was Betway had Sinner as the favorite there. And I was like, that was weird to me. I think I said that at the beginning. I was like, that's weird to me that he was the slight favorite over Alcaraz, because Alcaraz has won, I think, their last 4 matches now. And he'd won the last 3 before this. And the last, they played at the French Open last year on clay. And in my head, Alcaraz is the better natural surfaces player. All of Sinner's majors have been on hard court. So that was interesting to me. I think that the bookies got proved wrong there.
What is the number of matches? Alcaraz is 4-0 right now against him in their last 4. At what number do you think Sinner starts to think about it?
I mean, I think right now. I think he's thinking about it right now. Because it's not about like he's beaten Alcaraz 4 times, so it's not like he can't do it. But two of his wins were back in 2022. And the last time he beat him was Beijing 2023, which is, it's becoming like a while ago now. It's like a year. It's like over a year and a half ago. So Yeah, 4 in a row. I think anyone of Sinner's caliber and competitiveness is going to be like, yeah, this is the one. I'm number 1 in the world, but I don't feel good when I'm playing this guy.
I know, man, and I just think I gotta believe when the lights are brightest, the stadium is the most packed. He, in the back of his head, knows like Alcaraz has this part of his game, and I don't have it on him yet. I don't have the edge on him, and I think it's stuck in there. And I would be willing to go out on a limb and say that for the rest of their careers, when they are in the biggest matches, Alcaraz is going to win a considerable amount of more of those matches than Sinner will.
Well, you just expose yourself to the Italian fire coming for you in the comment section. But so you're essentially alleging that Alcaraz has more of the clutch factor and he will for the rest of his career.
100%. Confidence is built off of evidence. And right now, Sinner does not have the evidence against Alcaraz in these big moments. He could build it. He could find it. But it's also tough to even get in those situations where, like, Sinner would most likely make it further in more tournaments probably than Alcaraz just because of where they're at. It seems like mentally where Alcaraz
Sinner's like more consistent tournament to tournament, it seems.
Right.
Than Alcaraz. But the crazy thing is, like, that's their first final that's in a big tournament. Like, every other match, they played 2 other finals. It was Umag and Beijing 2024, which Alcaraz won the last Beijing. But then that's the first big one. So my guess is they'll play, like, hopefully, I mean, we'd love to see this, like 10 to 20 big finals through the rest of their career. So we're going to have a huge sample size. But, like, yeah, you're right. So far in the biggest moments, I mean, yeah, against each other, Alcaraz in the last 4. I still think we could have a few more, like, and surfaces are going to be a factor. Like at the French Open, if they play in the final, yeah, I'm riding with Alcaraz big time there. Mm-hmm. Same with Wimbledon. Honestly, although Wimbledon gets a little because it's quicker, so Sinner's power. Sinner does have more, I would say, power. And then, okay, if they play in the Australian Open final, are you really going to give the edge to Alcaraz there? I don't know. Alcaraz can't seem to get to the Australian final, and Sinner's won it twice.
Right. It seems like the best case scenario for Alcaraz going into each tournament is being on the opposite side of Sinner, and then Sinner winning all of his matches, because you just felt with Sinner being back, I feel like just on the podcast, we're talking like, man, I feel like Alcaraz his best tennis is about to come back now that Sinner is here. And we got it.
Say that. You did.
And
you did get it.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm excited. I can't wait. Hopefully it would be amazing if they could freaking French Open final. That would be cinema. Even though it was Zverev put on his story that he had some dream that he won the French Open. I saw that, but
did you see that? Well, I thought that was weird. Was that not weird?
That was weird. And was it up like the whole time, or did it get deleted? I don't know even how. I just saw it on Twitter.
Yeah, I saw it on Twitter. Let me check to see if it's still up there on the IG, because he's done stuff like this before. He's like, the classic, I'll insert myself into that conversation of like,
right.
They're like, who's the top 3 or who's the new big 3? And he's like, I'll insert myself.
Right. Like, I mean, I would love for him, to get a major and everything, but him saying that, like, I had a dream doing this. It's like, yeah, man, like I had a dream. I won the NBA finals with LeBron and D-Wade. Like, sorry.
Yeah,
it never happened.
I've been having crazy dreams that I can't even talk about. I'll go to jail. So
right.
Yeah, like, you don't have to tell people.
Yeah.
Or post it on your Instagram.
But hey, it'll be cool if he does pull it off and be like, I try to tell y'all before.
I know. He'll be like, yeah, I said I talk my talk and I proved it. And they're like, yeah, we did it 10 times before. So it's kind of like
you're one for 20, Alex.
But I do love people who bet on themselves and back themselves, like Kobe, like Jordan Bennington of the St. Louis Blues. Any of these guys, love that. I love it when you like short-term memory loss to miss a 3. You're like, I'm making this next one, shoot it, shoot it. Yeah, so it'll be interesting. But yeah, Sinner and Alcaraz will be on opposite sides of the draw at the French Open, which is the key. So that's gonna be sick.
Good deal. Should we get into the comments?
Yeah, and I got a bone to pick, I think. We don't have enough comments.
Oh my gosh. And now that you say this, please tell me Geo Air Travel was one of the comments. Or was the comment?
I can confirm that Geo Air Travel was the comment. There's actually 2. One of them was our guest on the show, but Match Point Canada. Shout out Match Point Canada. But the only one up until they popped in there, I think yesterday, was Geo Air Travel. And yeah, he's just the most loyal listener. So if you want to have us talk about your thoughts, leave your thoughts down below, and we will talk about them on next week's show, which will be during the start of the French Open. But for now, let me read this out. At Geo Air Travel says, "Hey, wave, 2 hands. Can you guys comment about Laver Cup? What are your thoughts on the Rune Fonseca selection? Thanks."
Great question, Geo Air Travel. Because
Did you see the Rune Fonseca selection?
I did, because I saw a lot of people were upset, especially with Fonseca.
Why? What were they upset about?
They're just saying, like, it's truly people that were just kind of going off of ranking, and they're like, why would this kid who's ranked whatever he's ranked,
right?
Like, I don't know if he's in the 60s or something, but why would he get an opportunity over, and then list out a bunch of different players, which people, I think they just got to get out of their head with the Laver Cup. Like, it's, at least the way I interpret it, is this is a tournament based solely off of entertainment and who is going to provide the highest entertainment value. And whether he's winning tournaments or not, right now he is an entertaining player that people are paying tickets for and butts are in seats watching him. So it makes perfect sense. And I think it'll be sick to see him play there, because I feel like that's an environment that he will show up big time for.
For sure. And yeah, like, he is also a kid. He's also a freak on the come up still. Like, people. So yeah, he's only ranked 65 in the world, but he has like a much higher level of a game that he can access than a lot of the higher ranked players. And the other thing that people might not know is that he is now represented by Team 8. That like just happened like after Miami. I actually saw, it's crazy. I saw Tony Godsick, who's Federer's old agent in Miami, who actually chatted. We said, "What's up?" He didn't know who I was, but we're boys.
He was trying to play cool.
He was trying to play cool. He was. We talked about the Vancouver Laver Cup, and he was like, "You know what? He was giving me thoughts." But he was there with Coco Gauff, who then left him like the next day, and then she left him, and he got Fonseca, which, you want to buy low, sell high. I think he rode Coco all the way up. That's fine. He's probably, I think Fonseca, like, you get the Brazilian market, like, he's a superstar, and Fonseca was already obviously sponsored by On Running, so it was kind of, the writing was on the wall. But Team 8, which is Federer owned, and it's like Federer and Tony Godsick's company, they own a majority stake, I believe, in the Laver Cup. Yeah. So if you know that, it's like there's no chance Fonseca is not going to be at the Laver Cups going forward. And he's a Team World guy, which needs help because they've only won, I think, one time. And that was in Vancouver. So Fonseca is going to go there. I'm sure they'll have maybe the next one. I don't know. Maybe the next world venue would be like in Rio or something, which would be so elite.
They're priming for it.
Yeah, they're priming for it, and he like goes hard. He's very competitive. Where some of these other guys, like, I feel like, to be honest, like Tiafoe and some of the other guys, like, aren't as competitive. Like, they're just there to take the check and like have fun.
Like, they want to have fun doing doubles, and it's like, man, hey, we're trying to put wins in the win column for Team World, bro.
Yeah.
So
I have no problem with that selection. And then Rune is, he's, they can't get all the players to play either. It's not like they can just take the top 8 ranked players from Europe. Like, there's a good chance Sinner doesn't want to play, and whoever. So Rune is a great player, and he's very
Rune is a beast. That's so wild to me. People were upset about that one. It's like, he's one of the best players in the world.
He's literally top 10. Were people upset about Rune? I didn't see anything, but were people upset about Rune?
Just like a handful.
Yeah. And if they were, that's crazy, because he's literally top 10 right now. He has been struggling, but he's come back. He won Barcelona, didn't he? Beating Alcaraz in the final.
Yeah.
So am I crazy? Or me and JP are sitting here like, what are we missing?
Yeah. Nah, it'll be cool, man.
He literally beat Alcaraz in the final of Barcelona. But speaking of, I just had a ADHD thought. Alcaraz won Monte Carlo, was in the final of Barcelona, skipped Madrid, and then won Rome.
He's in form right now.
If you don't think he's the favorite going into the French Open, you got something coming.
Right.
Because he clearly is.
I know, man. I can't wait again. And Alcaraz, if you're not believing him, you got something coming. If you're still watching this, you got something coming, because the interview with Conor Casey, Coach Conor Casey, is next up with all of the hot takes of tennis. Again, leave your comments so we can feature you on next week's episode. Share this interview with Coach Conor Casey with a friend to help the slice as we try to get to 21K before the end of the French Open. It's very doable, very within range. So we appreciate you guys. Steven, you want to send them to the interview?
All right. Check this out, guys. This was a great interview just between two Canadians talking tennis, the Slice and tennis coach Conor Casey. All right, tennis coach Conor Casey, welcome to the Slice.
Good to be here. Slice is my favorite shot in the game. Let's go.
I've seen you put out some great content around the Slice, and we appreciate the evangelism of the shot, and we appreciate you joining the show now. We'd like to get a little intro of you for those of you who are watching the show who haven't seen your content that you put out. You have almost 100,000 on IG. That's going to be a nice milestone. You put out content on Instagram, YouTube, Substack, and what you say is it's tennis help served with humor. And I agree. It's some of the funniest content I've seen in the tennis world since I've been in it, and I really appreciate your work. So it's great to be able to talk to you today. And I guess, where are we catching you from? You're in Canada, and you're Canadian?
I'm in the first capital of Canada, Kingston, Ontario. For you history buffs, this was the original capital of Canada. And now it's Ottawa. Yeah. Little tidbit.
Yeah. A little tidbit. Wow. Yeah. Very Canadian. And because I know you were a former ATP pro player, played college tennis as well. So obviously very good, much better than myself. People ask how good I am at tennis when they watch the show. The answer is not very good. Yeah. Not like Conor. Where was your first, or when was your first piece of tennis content that went viral, would you say?
The first thing I made that sort of had a viral push, let's call viral 1 million views, was a piece about college tennis that sort of it demonstrates the locking of horns that happens between tennis players off the court. How we sort of whether you're a college player or whether you're a club player, there's this kind of sussing each other out and deciding how good you really are without actually playing each other. I had two college players that were talking to each other, and I think it's called the college tennis size up. And it's all about, like, what school did you play for? Georgia. Well, really? The Bulldogs? Well, no, the Northern Indiana, Georgia Tech. So, like, I think that's something that's classic in our culture, is people kind of put on this front. They don't lie, but they don't tell the whole truth about their level sometimes.
Yeah. And when would that have come out?
I think that was January of 2024. So it was like almost about a year and a bit.
Right. Yeah. And how long have you been putting out tennis content in general?
Yeah, just November 2023 I started.
Yeah. That's amazing. And is that, I guess, another very funny ex-tennis player, Michael Costa, talked about how he was on the pro tour and he was writing his jokes down. And then, once it was time to hang it up, is that kind of where you get most of your ideas from, just having been around tennis for decades and observing? They say comedians are just very observant citizens. They're like, Tom Segura's out there writing things down as he watches people in his funny special. Is that kind of where you get your bits from, just being kind of a circus in general?
Yes. And I should say, I did actually play Michael Costa.
Okay.
Interesting little tidbit. I played at the Ohio State University. He played at Illinois. Back in 2002, Illinois was the best team in the country, and Michael Costa played 4. I played 4 for Ohio State. And while I was playing Costa, I was having some problems that week with my coach. I shouldn't have been playing. I wasn't putting in 110%, okay? Doesn't matter who won or lost. Maybe he won. But at some point, I just remember we're playing in Illinois in front of his home crowd, and I come to the net. Costa passes me. I turn around, and I hear from the audience, Condor, Condor. And now I'm confused because that's my nickname. But I'm playing at Ohio. I'm playing in Illinois. I turn around. Turns out his nickname is Condor as well. And he's got his arms out like a bird, flying around the court like this.
Jeepers.
And it annoyed me, not because it was gloating, but because it was kind of funny. And I thought I was the funniest guy in the Big Ten, and turns out there was another funny guy. So all the power to you, Michael Costa. But I guess you're the Condor, and I'm the Concord grape. We'll go with that.
The Battle of the Condors. That's very funny, and that would rattle me. I've in college basketball, I know that sometimes fans will learn funny facts about a player's life, and then chant their girlfriend's name or stuff like that to try and throw them off. So chanting your nickname about the opponent is probably a new one.
Well, I guess he wore it better than I did, so good for him.
Well, two very funny guys, two very good contributors to the tennis space, and I'm glad that you're Canadian, because I'm Canadian, obviously, and the Slice is Canadian, and Canadian tennis. We were saying before the show, there's never been a better time, at least in the last while, for me to be patriotic. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily because of what's happening on the court. Maybe the Canadian tennis top pros have been having some struggles over the last couple of years, but just in general, I think it's cool to be proud of Canada right now. And I guess from your sense of things, you're a coach, you're on the ground level with kind of development in some ways. What's your kind of sense about where Canadian tennis is at right now in general? It's a big question.
Yeah, no, it feels like like you said, I mean, never a better time to be Canadian. I think that there was a little bit of a better time, like maybe 5 or 6 years ago when Bianca came out and Dennis was like, is he going to be top 5? Felix, are they going to be like 1 and 2 in the world? There was a bit of that happening. Milos was vying for a Wimbledon championship. So tennis was massive there. And now I think we're in this sort of let's call it the post Bianca era, where it's like Canadians can win slams. Now, like, which Canadian's going to win not only a slam, but potentially multiple slams? If you look back from when I was a kid growing up in the 90s, early 2000s, tennis wasn't even considered a real sport in Canada. We didn't believe. When Milos came out, Bianca, Dennis, they made us believe. So now we have a country that believes we can be great at tennis. If you're 200 in the world as a Canadian now, that's not as big. I mean, to me, it's a huge accomplishment, but in the grand scope of Canadian tennis, we're going, okay, we've had people at this level before. So it's not as amazing as it was, say, 30, 40 years ago. Now it's like, okay, you're a Canadian. Can you win a slam? And who's going to win the next? So I think we're all excited about that. I think that Canadians, we're getting used to the fact that we're contenders. And there's a bit of okay, we're up at the top now. Like, we're plateauing. Who's going to give us that next little bump?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great summary of it. It is amazing how people's expectations grow so fast. You have Bianca really come in that 2019 year. I was following her the year before, and she was just one of the other players playing the ITF,
right? Young
player coming up, and then she's winning Indian Wells, Canada, U.S. Open. So then it's like, all right, who's the next major champion when we've never had one in our history of a country in tennis on the singles side? So people, I feel like, Dennis and Felix and the group of, Layla, they have a lot of expectations on them to do extremely well. And fair enough for Dennis and Felix, especially they're freaks, I would say, as far as talent goes. And they're coming back. So that's a great thing for us. I didn't mention at the top of the interview, but in the whole grand scheme of this podcast, we did talk about how we're going to be giving our hot takes on the show here. We talked about this leading up. I've heard a few of yours, but I haven't heard any ones you're going to drop on us today.
Okay.
But I'm excited to hear yours, and I have a couple of my own that I can maybe present to you and get your reaction to them as well. So you have
caliente?
Let's go. First hot take that you're ready to drop on us?
You want to go hot take? I mean, look, my classic hot take, a big hot take that I'm throwing around right now is sort of, let's go off this theme of post eras. We're in a post Federer Nadal era, and I feel like I'm not going to use the word ruin because that might be a bit aggressive, but they certainly changed the game to a place now where, look, did we experience the most beautiful tennis player that will ever play the game in Roger Federer, and now the game is uglier and boring because we have him to look back at? Maybe. did Nadal change the fiber of the game and turn it into a sport now where you have to fight like to the death for every single point? And before him, pros would sort of phone it in if they were up a break, and there was a bit more of this swagger and kind of like not killing yourself for the sport. Yeah. So I think that now, look, I'm also older now. I'm the same age as Roger Federer. So I look at the pros and I look down at them. Maybe I got a bit of that unk syndrome, that old guy syndrome. I can't really relate to their to the youth, but I think the sport's lost a little bit of that swagger, and we have Federer to thank because look, he was the one that got away. He was the perfect one. We dated him as a fan base, and now we don't have him, and now we got to watch Sinner just sociopathically destroy everyone without any emotion. And I mean, we all want Alcaraz to do something because he's got the flair. And I think we as spectators, we want that flair more than we want these guys that are hopped up on Adderall and curating their images. You all know who you are on the pro tour on Adderall. We see you on the sidelines going like this. We can see you having an Adderall trip. Okay. It's cheating.
I agree.
Shout out to Carousel, who's pointing that out and letting us be known that Adderall should be looked into. If you've tried an Adderall Prozac highball before a match, both legal drugs, you know that shit should be banned. Facts.
For sure. I was on it as a kid, and I'm not on it anymore. And it definitely was gets you zooted on the playground. So
well, I was on Adderall all through college, and I did not have ADHD. Okay, so what does that tell you?
So you were a cheater.
Oh yeah. I mean, no. You know what? I wasn't taking it for my matches. I was just taking it to party. I should have taken it for my matches.
Maybe you should have taken it for your school. I don't know. Taking it to party. That's you just want to be focused on the party.
I just wanted to lock in on that dance moves.
Fair enough. I respect that. I think a lot of current tennis players would respect that. Very, I think in a lot of ways, like I said about the Canadian expectations, they have kind of, wouldn't say ruined, but I would say, hurt the expectation that we put on. And then, life's about expectations for your own happiness. So if you think Alcaraz is going to win 30 majors now because that's just what players do, that's, he actually could do it, which is the sickening part. But, if the measure of a good player is whether they win, 5 to 10 slams, and then if they don't, they're kind of not reaching their potential.
Yeah,
that's the big three effect. That's kind of just distorted everything, because winning one major used to be like career closed, like accomplishment. That's unbelievable. But now it's to a crazy degree, so I totally see that.
Well, then people talk about the GOAT debate. They say, it's only about the amount of slams you've won. And yeah, I guess from a statistical standpoint, Djokovic is the greatest player to ever win in our sport. But, how do you define greatness? I mean, do you take beauty into account at all when you're defining greatness? Because if you do, he's losing points there. I'm sorry. It's just perfunctory tennis. Like, yes, of course, you're the best, but it's kind of boring to watch. I mean, do we take that into account, or do we just admire only victory?
Right. It's like I heard Jerry Seinfeld joke about, how did everything become only about money? It used to be like, I have the cooler job, like I'm an astronaut. That's enough. Now it's all just private equity and who makes the most amount of money. It's like, is it all winning? Like, yes, Djokovic is objectively the best player ever at winning Grand Slams in the current format that we have it with the current setup of tennis and technology. But in my opinion, I've said this on the show a million times, like Federer, I just think to the eye test is clearly the most talented player of all time. And he beat Djokovic and Nadal many, many, many times at their best when he was older, etc. So if he had won Wimbledon 2019, it's like, it's like, I don't think it's that fine. Like, Michael Jordan doesn't have all the stats, but I think, it's pretty clear to many people that he's the GOAT, and it's not LeBron. Sorry.
Well, look, I mean, it's human nature to want that beauty or that cool factor. I know this because every time I give a tennis lesson, the noobs, the new beginners, the beginners, they have an option. Are you going to have a one-handed backhand or a two-handed backhand?
Right.
And they ask me, Coach, why? How would I choose? I say, well, the two-handed backhand is better. It's got more versatility. You're going to return serve better. You're going to be more steady from the baseline. and all the pros use it. And then they go, well, why would I use a one-hander? And I say, because it looks cooler. And it's not always an easy choice.
You'll get more girls.
You'll get more. Yeah, you'll be cooler. You'll get more popularity. And so I think, that little hesitation, when somebody hesitates, or even when a player says, having me given them all that knowledge, like myself, I pretty much knew all that, but I chose the one-hander. It's like some people go into this sport going, you know what? Maybe I just want to look good. Maybe I want to have the best outfit. Maybe I want to have a one-handed backhand.
Yeah. There's nothing for two-handers who have never hit a one-handed backhand. I also play with one, and I had the same thing. I was like, I actually was, as a junior, played with the two, and then I was like, I want to have fun in tennis. And I, started smoking one out of every 10 backhands down the line in a nice way. And that feeling just can't be matched with two hands on your racket, in my opinion. So, Carousel, you mentioned him earlier, has a great video about that. He said, I love it when players come out looking like they're trying to play like Federer, because it's an easy win for me. Because they're trying to hit it. They're trying to play like so nice, and then that's not that's not how you win the most amount of matches, because nobody is Federer.
To that point, I asked my college teammate years later how he could beat me so easily, because he could routine me, and he said that I just played my rhythm was too predictable. I had the same amount of bounces. I had the same amount of time in between points. He said there was no grist. It wasn't dirty, and he could really lock into the rhythm and the clean ball. It never jarred him. So I think sometimes the beauty is almost a weakness.
Yeah. So you had a clean ball.
Clean, but too clean, man. I was too clean.
You said you were a big server. Was that so? You're like, you had the pop. I know you have the pop. You teach people how to have the pop, but you had the pop.
Part of being a ginger is getting used to being alone, because we are
having no
outcasts.
soul.
What's that? We have no soul, and we're outcasts, and people don't want to be around us. So you spend a lot of time working on your serve. So I would just hit baskets of serves all day long. Part of it too was like I wanted to be a serve and volleyer, and I have a bit of that like obsessive behavior where I can just do stuff by myself a lot. So I just hit baskets of serves all the time, and developed a very lopsided game. My serve, my overhead, my slice. Shout out to the slice. Best shots in my game. Anything with a continental grip,
Right.
Give me a Western grip, and 2 out of 4 of those forehands are going in.
Yeah. Fair enough. Okay, I got a hot take for you.
Yeah.
Let me know what you think. Tennis shouldn't grow. I don't think we need to grow the game. People talk about that. It's like Nick Kyrgios is out here like, just doing whatever, and it's growing, quote unquote, the game.
Right.
And selfishly, there's a sense where I kind of want gatekeeping. I want the tennis events that we're going to go to not be super overpriced, to not be corporate, and I think when the ATP or any of the tennis establishment talks about the amount of fans out there, I haven't done this research, obviously, and I'm not like well read in it, but they say there's 1 billion people who are fans of tennis on planet Earth. Like, how many tennis fans do we think we can get? 8 billion? All of them? I think if we have 1 billion consumers, when our product is good, it crushes. Like when you've got Federer and Nadal finals of Wimbledon, like we don't need that all the time. But even in the past, like a long time ago, Sampras, Agassi, Steffi Graf, all these players, like tennis was iconic in culture at those times.
Yeah.
So it's more like we have to make tennis good, and I don't think necessarily grow it. I think we have to make it better for our current fans, and then obviously for people who don't have access, we need to increase access. But I think that's the main way we should be growing the game, not just like doing anything possible to get more people in the door, because we have enough people in the door, and a lot of them are just kind of getting turned off by it, I think.
No, I can feel you on that. I feel like the concept of needing to grow and needing to recruit, it's a bit low status, and it's almost against the DNA of tennis. Like tennis, look, we have a superiority complex. We have a pretentiousness. Like, just fucking own it. Pardon my language. Like, just own it. Like, there's this concept always of like, we got to be more accepting, and we got to make tennis accessible to everybody. Like, is Dobell Tequila doing that too? Like, I mean, why do we have to be so accessible? I think it has hurt the sport a little bit, because it gives us this existential crisis of always trying to placate to different audiences. Like you said, it's like, okay, do we need to continuously, show that we're approachable, like we're nice, or can we just like own the fact that like we have sweaters around our necks and we're living in country clubs? Like, yeah, I think there's some truth to that. I had somebody actually show up to a clinic one time, and I was drinking a lot of the Kool-Aid from the tennis federations that we need to grow and be more, the reason why tennis has problems is because it's not accessible. So I was sort of preaching about how, we need to be more open to people coming to our sport. And she was like, are you kidding? The only reason why I'm playing this sport is because like I worked hard and now I get to play tennis. And I was like, okay, like that's a kind of a fun way to look at it. It's like, yeah, tennis is a luxury. Just like treat it like it.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a luxury and it's a sport. I think people like getting into things. So if you have like tennis, if you dumb it down so much, I mean, you can't really, like, it is confusing. The scoring system, how to play, the etiquette around it. People like learning about that stuff and really getting into things. And I think you saw that with golf during the pandemic. And
it's confusing if you have the attention span of a fruit fly. And if you're looking for instant gratification, which, look, I understand. I like instant gratification. But tennis was always this thing where you prefaced it with like, look, it's going to take you 2 years to get good at. And now that you have stuff like pickleball, which, look, I have friends that play pickleball, all the power to them. But the fact that we're always sort of comparing, and it's like, yeah, you can literally get that same social camaraderie and a little bit of that back and forth vibe that tennis gives you by just picking up a pickleball paddle and just giving it a go, and then you're pretty good. Like, I think that people that are looking for instant gratification, it's their time to live, right? Mm-hmm. But if you're looking to sort of like cultivate and, like you said, like get into something, yeah, it takes you a little bit of time to learn it, but
yeah, keep the 5-set matches, because when the matches go 4.5 hours, and we've been waiting years for a really big, great match in the final of a Grand Slam, that's something that, in my opinion, only tennis can deliver. Like every other sport is like 90 minutes. It's a finite amount of time.
Yeah.
Usually. And yeah. Anyway, so that's my take. Doesn't have to grow to be better.
No. Let's if anything, shrink it and double the price. Shrink
the game, exclude people, gatekeep.
Yeah.
The country club.
One-handed backhands only.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You got anything else for us as far as hot takes?
Did I have anything? What else did I have?
I can remind you of one that you said.
Yeah, remind me.
Shocked me, or didn't shock me, but I would like to hear more. You said tennis is really a women's game.
Tennis is a women's game. I mean that as let me just preface. I say that because I think that as a tennis coach who's had the privilege of working at a lot of clubs, most of my clientele is women, mm-hmm. and most tennis that's being played at these clubs is women's doubles. And they seem to be the ones that give the sport its life. They're the super fans. They're the ones organizing round robins. They're the ones playing most of the leagues. They're the ones paying all of us tennis pros, or paying for our rent. Shout out to Rosemary and Janet and all the C team ladies. Without you guys, us tennis coaches are nothing. Don't think for a second I don't love all of you, even if I bust your chops and get you to go to the net for once in a blue moon. I love you. Tennis is a women's game, and because of that, we have you to thank. And I think that's just the DNA of the sport.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think you meant that as like tennis is for girls or anything. It's like some of the most iconic players and personalities in the game ever have been women, like Billie Jean King, obviously. Yeah. I think of the women from the 70s and 80s, and it is truly the most like equal sport out there, I think, as far as
and like, look, the men love to talk about without like, you've heard some of these swanky dudes, like the one guy from the Indian Wells, I forget his name, doesn't matter. He sort of said without the men, the women would be nothing. It's like, if you're gonna boil everything down to money, this is the side alert, this is the Canadian tennis. Okay, we're not obsessed with money the way the Yankees are.
That's right.
Okay, so we talk about stuff and you're like, what? It's a financial thing. This is not even a debate. No, it is a debate. Money's going to it up a lot of the times. I'm talking about the energy. Female tennis energy is vaster and more powerful than the male tennis energy. Anna Kournikova, Steffi Graf, Monica Seles, the Williams sisters, These are like Billie Jean King. These are like iconic people. Arthur Ashe, icon. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Who's another male tennis icon that like blew open the doors of like equality? I don't know. There's probably some. But I think that from a political standpoint, female tennis has had a bigger impact on culture than male tennis.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty good point. I don't think that's that hot of a take. I think, for some reason, women who are like Serena Williams is like, I think, widely considered maybe like the greatest female athlete of like the 20th or 21st century, whatever one we're in. And so the female tennis players are like the head of like female sports, I would say, as far as their athleticism and as like how highly they're held. And then you get men coming to watch tennis. They're like, oh, Djokovic is a good athlete, but imagine if LeBron played tennis. I'm like, he actually wouldn't be that good. Like, no, and Djokovic is like, there's a lot of ways you can argue just because they're not these like physical freaks, like their athleticism is maybe it's the best, but men kind of look at tennis and they're like, oh, it's fun to play. It's hard, but it's not a real sport like football. And I would argue that tennis is like the realest of sports and
because men need to touch each other in order for it to be a real sport.
Yeah, men like to touch each other on the field, and we they don't get that in tennis unless it's doubles, which some of the really bombastic men that we are talking about not naming have a problem with doubles and they don't like it. So,
well, are we talking about me?
No, we're talking about. I was talking about some of the people who have been talking about doubles is completely financed by singles, and I think another one of your hot takes was doubles should just get its own tour.
Yeah, I like the idea of doubles just testing its luck, pulling a euchre and just like going alone and just seeing what would happen. Mm-hmm. I think anytime you're in a position where you're paired with someone who's potentially telling you that you're freeloading off of them, it's better for you're better for your journey in life to just go and see if you can make it on your own. And if you can't, then it wasn't meant to be. But this concept of like the singles guys being able to, like Riley Opelka, who, by the way, I'm a huge fan of Riley Opelka's game. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I like the fact that he's like serve botting his way into art galleries and kind of wearing cool outfits. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I get it. He's a young guy. He's trying to find himself. Like, he's got this, like, he's part of this, like, unapologetic honesty that all men in their 20s are playing with right now, which is really just a fancy way of saying not thinking before you talk. Mm-hmm. Whatever. Good on him. I like serve bots. I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, the doubles tour. That's another hot take. You like serve bots.
Love serve bots because the sport has just been trying to kill them. The sport, for some reason, everybody who walks onto a tennis court with a tennis coach wants to have a big serve and asks us to give them a big serve. But if they have to watch a big server on television, they act like they're watching paint dry. It's like, pick one. Do you want to be a big server or do you want to get rid of the serve out of our game?
Exactly.
Right. So I love the serve bot. I love the serve bot. Wimbledon tried to get rid of them. Serve and volleyers unfortunately went extinct because of the technology and the attempts to slow down the sport. But guys like Riley Opelka and guys like John Isner, they've and my boy DK Suresh at Wake Forest, just a slick game. Big up to that guy. I'd call him a serve bot, but like he's stubborn off the baseline, as my buddy at Not Your Country Club said, Nathan. Yeah, I just love the serve bot. I think they're, you got to hold on to these guys that are going extinct and let's bring them back.
Right on.
Yeah.
I got my only other hot take currently is what I can think of is the ATP is actually doing a good job.
Okay.
And I think it's very cool to hate on them. But it has, and with the PTPA lawsuit, I was there in Miami when it got dropped, and I get it. I get why people are frustrated with the ATP or any of these organizations, but it seems to me like they're catching the stray most of the time because Milos Raonic put it in big numbers that 80% of the revenue in tennis comes from the four majors.
Right.
So 20% is generated by the ATP. The ATP also produces like the vast majority of all the tournaments. So they're the ones doing the world tour that's essentially like a traveling circus. And that's a very hard logistical thing to do well. And I think it takes decades and decades to perfect that. And they're getting there, obviously, but players acting like there's not going to be duct tape on some things or like things falling through the crack when they're at a different venue every single week in 4 different places usually is crazy. And then the majors are at the same venue every year with the same federation with this, like, it's so easy to produce a major where it's so hard to produce. I mean, obviously the Masters tournaments are always at the same time or at the same place usually, but I just think the ATP is getting to a place where it's pretty good, and tearing it down and trying to restart again will only hurt the smaller, lower ranked players.
This is where I'm gonna realize that I don't know enough about it, so I'm not going to be unapologetically open without knowing my facts. I will say that it does definitely feel like we're living in a time where people want to deconstruct tennis. I see a lot of people doing it. Some people who I'm sort of excited about, the Intense Tennis League coming out of Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're trying to put a new spin on the sport. Like, people have identified that whether it's the players not getting paid right, which again I don't know much about, or whether it's the scoring system, whether it's not being accessible, yada yada. Like, people have decided that tennis is in need of a makeover. So I'm excited to see just all the attempts, right? Like, I like the fail fast method. I like the, give it, try something new mentality. So I'm open to trying new things, but I'm also open to, like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like, if something's working, why get rid of it?
Yeah, I think people think something has to be perfect. Or it's not that good. But
money, it seems like they want more money too all the time, right? So
again, there's never been more money to the players in the sport as an amount, and these things take a while. That's just, and the ATP, as I have no reason to say that, the ATP has actually made it very hard for the Slice to do a lot of what we've tried to do over the last 8 years, but they've been getting better, and they've reached out to us, and they've worked with us, and they've been innovative and slow but innovative to try and get new media like you, like us, to have access to their content and access to the players and yada yada. So I just think they're doing a better job than they get credit for. And maybe the Grand Slams are the real abusers here, because their percentage of revenues that's paid out to the players is like vastly lower than ATP, and they control, like I said, 80% of the market. So they're the big people we should cry about. But speaking of new things, you said try new things. What new things can people be excited about when it comes to Coach Conor Casey with the content that you're putting out? I guess you obviously don't want to give us any spoilers, but what are you going to be doing this summer, getting up to?
Yeah, I think that part of this content strategy and content lifestyle is about, like, okay, how can I continue to give people value, and how can I continue to make myself like a player in this game that actually, like, contributes to it. So everything that I'm doing is like, okay, how can I contribute? Running the tape on myself, it's just the comedy and tennis together, right? Like, that's where I'm strongest. That's where I have the most passion. That's where people respond to me. So I'm a writer by trade as well. Like, I was a writer for television, wrote sitcoms for the better part of 15 years. And now I've got a Substack where on my Substack, I blend my tennis coaching and my writing, and give people racket reviews, give beginners and club players sort of a guide on how to deal with our sport, like a bit more of like a bit more depth than my Instagram comedy videos and stuff. So I'm really focused on the Substack, making that grow. I'm working with a lot of brands that I really admire and I'm honored to work with, and like the Cincinnati Open and the NBA, the National Bank Open, a lot of these ATP events, just getting the word out and getting more culture around those sports. So a lot of that. And I'm also on the court 10 to 20 hours a week teaching slice backhands.
He's walking the walk. He's on the court. And anyone who's spent a lot of time practicing or training in tennis, there's so much stuff to joke about there. There's so much content, I would say, as far as, because it's just great. And you do a great job. And that's funny. I know you were a writer, but it's very evident that you like plan out this content. And so you were writing for 15 years, and now you're writing. I did have you read your Substack, and I think it's very good, and it's very in depth and thoughtful. So
thank you.
Is a big key to comedy, I guess, writing, like actually writing out what you're going to say before just trying to wing it?
Yeah, I think comedy is a thing that you're sort of born into sometimes. Like my dad's a Staten Island Irish Italian who found out later that he wasn't Italian. It was actually Jewish. So that Staten Island angst, and my mom is Irish mimic from a gypsy clan. So you get this like melding of cultures, and I think the Irish and the Italian and the Jewish, they really, really use comedy to communicate, and that's where I come from. That's my background.
Yeah.
So everything in my life has always been like imitating people. Like my mom would imitate all my teachers, and everything my dad said was funny. So I just can't help it. Like everything I do is like, okay, where's the funny? Like even when I like try to be dead serious, it's like that Seinfeld episode. Like, am I being funny right now? A little bit. Like,
yeah,
it is what it is.
It is what it is. Well, I can relate to that a lot. Always trying to make people laugh, and there's no better feeling. Yeah, and your content does that, and it is awesome. So I look forward to keep seeing what you will be putting out. Maybe see you at the National Bank Open in Toronto if I make it there this year. I was in Montreal last year for the first time, and I felt it was a transcendent experience because I'm in the West, right? I'm in Victoria, so Western Canadian tennis is very different than Eastern Canadian tennis.
How so? A bit more indoors?
Just like way more like sparse. Like I would say Vancouver has a pretty good culture, but I'm from Kamloops, which is just a hockey town. So it's just you like, like I grew up and I literally was very into sports, like every sport, watching on TV all the time. And I didn't know that junior tennis was even a thing. I never met anyone that did it. So this was my thought process as I think not like a totally out to lunch person.
Yeah.
I was like watching Roger Federer on the US Open, like on TSN at the US Open. I was like, oh, I could start playing tennis now at 15 and then I could be a pro.
Yeah.
And I knew I was trying to be Kobe Bryant. Like I played basketball and I was like, okay, I knew that was not happening, but I was like, I could be a pro tennis player if I just play. So I went and literally started practicing at the local club. Coach Kelly Hubbard, Kamloops Tennis Center. He's like, okay, you're pretty good. You're an athlete. Okay. We moved up to the top group and then went to play tournaments in Vancouver and was getting chopped routine 6-0, 6-0 in half an hour by kids that I didn't think looked like athletes compared to me. And I was like, all right, this isn't happening, but that's what I mean. It's just, there's not as much of establishment out here. I wouldn't say, but which is great. Like you go to Montreal and there's such a culture around it, I think. And then you go to like France and that's like even, to the nth degree where how tennis can be integrated into the sporting culture of a country. So I think, anyways, that was my observation.
Well, you're doing your part to integrate tennis into the Canadian culture. So thank you, my friend.
Appreciate that. Yeah, we will hopefully be able to link up in Toronto and wish you well doing your work this summer.